years since signing the peace accord. What has been our progress in that period of time? That's our discussion tonight on the show. Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome Hassan Mohammed, who's the CEO of the NCIC. Sheikh, I'd like to begin with you first. What have we managed to achieve in the last 10 years, do you think?
Thank you, Yvonne. For me, I would begin by saying the short term was that we were able to achieve that peace. We stopped going for each other's neck, destruction of property. So for me, the short term we were able to achieve. And of course, we know the reforms that we were able to effect, like the judicial reforms and the rest. But if you ask me, we have taken steps back, especially when you look at the kind of instigations that are there by politicians, the kind of impunity and the rest. So for me, I would say in a nutshell, the short term we were able to achieve that peace. But I think we did not have in our minds the long-term solution. So with time, and actually we didn't take long before we forgot about that accord, and we started going at each other's necks. We started making utterances that were actually tearing the country on ethnic lines, on political lines, and you know our politics are built on ethnicity. The impunity, defiance to the court. And my biggest fear now, Yvonne, is that today, 10 years after that accord, and after the experiences that we went through, the painful experiences that Kenyans went through in 2007, 2008, we are, after building the confidence with our institutions like the judiciary, and for me this is a very important institution for us to be peaceful in this country, that I know that when I have a dispute, when I'm not happy with something, I will fall back to the judiciary. My fear is that we are going back there where we are beginning slowly to lose the confidence we had in our institutions. So for me, I think we need to wake up as Kenyans and say, okay, 10 years ago, we had a problem. That problem pushed us to this. We can easily go back there. And as the people of Kenya, I think we learned a lesson. But for the political class, I think we still have a problem. We still have a problem with the political class.
All right, yeah. And that's interesting to say that, you know, at that time, the short-term goals were met, which was immediate cessation of hostilities. But then there was the long-term issues that Sheikh, you're speaking about. And this is where, Hassan Mohammed, your commission comes in. Much expectation has been put on the commission. Martha Karua, the Now Kenya party leader, said, well, you know, there's only so much that your commission can do in the environment in which it finds itself, funding, support from the government. But you're on the bashing end of quite a bit in this country. What are your thoughts as towards the work of the Commission in terms of long-term healing and reconciliation?
Thank you, Yvonne. I must state that I agree with the Honorable Martha Karua that the establishment of the Commission is just a cog in the wheel of achieving cohesion and integration. In 2014, we carried out some research. We call it the Social Cohesion Index. And we found out that there are so many factors which influence cohesion. Some of those factors are outside the purview of the Commission. For example, the issue of equity, issue of prosperity, all those things. You see the issue which Honorable Karua has talked about now, about the rule of law and all those things. All those, if you put them together, if we make them right, then cohesion can be achieved. And then the Commission can do only a little bit, some little work which it has been given. And the mandate of the Commission, if you look at the law, is equality of opportunity, because there have been a lot of complaints about inequality, and then peaceful coexistence. And we are supposed to also deal with the issue of hate speech, which, as you are aware, in 2007, 2008, contributed, it was not responsible for the violence, but it contributed to violence and it fueled the violence. So we are supposed to deal with that. Yes, it's true that a lot has been expected from the Commission. The Commission has tried to do the best it can. We know that there is a lot which we have not done, but we have our own challenges which are external to the Commission.
Okay.
So we'll try to do our best, but as Honorable Martha Karua said, all of us must contribute to making this nation, a cohesive nation.
All right, and we'll come back because I'd like to speak about the challenges and where those are so that perhaps we can start to find solutions. You say some of them are external. Granted, we will talk about those and whether there are also any other internal hitches that you think we can sort of start to fix as we move forward. But are we better today, 10 years later, is the question we're asking ourselves. We pose that same question to Bishop Dr. David Oginde of the Christ is the Answer Ministries. He's the presiding bishop of that. This is what he had to say.
Well, yes and no. I would say the fact that we are on this show tonight means there's a sense of peace that has been in the country since that time. But at the same time, this is what you would call a calm rather than peace, because we know that the nation has been in a state of tension, and indeed it still is. And we are in that place where any little thing could stir up trouble and spark different levels of violence. So there's a sense in which we have not got from where we were in 2007, though we are perhaps better than we were at that time. But we have not done as much as we should have done to really get us to the place where we can say 2007 is behind us. So that's why I would say yes and no.
So when we think about it all those constitutional bodies that were said to be formed, I mean, we've got a new constitution. Well, there was the TJRC report, which is another matter altogether. This is the second phase of devolution. Sheikh Lidhome, some would say, well, we've made some great strides. Why then would we not be as pleased or as pessimistic? What for you are some of the key things that have remained undone and fulfilled 10 years on?
Yeah, I think, Yvonne, as I said earlier, I think when we went into that coalition and the agreement to cease fire, we did not address the underlying causes. And as long as we do not deal with the underlying causes, where did the rain start beating us?
And what is that? What are those underlying causes, Sheikh?
One, when our institutions are so eroded that we have no confidence in them, institutions like the judiciary and others. When our politics is so ethnicized, it's driven by ethnicity. It's not by principles or issues. It's not issue-driven. It's personality-driven. Yvonne, we are still there. Today we are divided not on issues. It's on personalities. Who is on this side, whether he's right or wrong. As long as I belong to that person, I belong to the ethnic community of that person, he's right. Look at it, Yvonne. Lawyers decided that because orders from the court have been defied, the lawyers decided we are going to wear a yellow band to show our any disquiet with that. But lawyers from a certain ethnic community decided, no, we think it is not right. So if it can even divide as even professionals are divided, I think we have a problem in the country. So we needed to have, of course, number one, cease fire, because our house is on fire, we put off the fire. But more important, Yvonne, is how do we stop ourselves from getting back there? So we ask ourselves hard questions, questions that are sometimes painful. What is it that drove us to 2007, 2008? Negative ethnicity. I have no problem with ethnicity, but when it is negative ethnicity, we need to deal with that. Historical injustices, we can pretend that we have solved them. To some people, the pain is still there.
All right, yeah. So that's a good point you raised, but there were some politicians who said, let's not touch the TJRC report. It's too painful. Now is not the time. It'll bring up all of these, historical emotion and turmoil in the country. Is there ever a right time to discuss it, or a wrong time for that matter, Sheikh?
We should have dealt with it now before we get back there, before we get a problem. We should not wait for a problem to happen, because it took us there before. We should not wait for it to take us back there again. So now is the right time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Hassan, you were talking about some of the challenges. We'll get to the ones that are external, but many look at the commission and say, well, there's impunity that has been entrenched by your commission itself, going after, ordinary citizens for posting things on Twitter, perhaps, as you should, but that letting politicians get off lightly with the same.
No, I don't agree with that notion, because there are a number of politicians who are in court and who are facing charges. So the problem with Kenyans is that they like picking a few things and then blaming the commission. But I think there are a number of politicians who are in court, and therefore we cannot just say that we are picking only the small fish. In any case, the small fish they are talking about are very influential people. I mean, the young men who write on Twitter and the social media, they have a lot of following. Some of them have more following than some of the politicians you are talking about.
Well, but so do the politicians, and they have a bigger platform, especially when it's mainstream. But be that as it may, it is a perception amongst Kenyans that more needs to come from your commission. So, be it the facts or not, do you think that the NCIC still has, maybe the word is not legitimacy, but the support of the people in terms of moving us forward? Because whether it is the facts or not, if people do not believe in you, then it becomes difficult to carry out your mandate.
Yes, I think we probably need to do a bit of awareness because many of the people don't really understand what our work is supposed to be. For example, people think that we are supposed to investigate, arrest, charge, and sentence people who are responsible for hate speech. And that is not the work of the National Cohesion Integration Commission. We can only go to a certain point, investigate and pass on the files to the Director of Public Prosecution, who then passes on to the court.
So do you think you need more? Do you think you need a greater mandate? Do you think you need that expanded?
No,
or
I don't
are you
think
happy with the role of the Commission as it is?
No, I don't think, because it's not also good to put all those powers in one institution. But I think if every institution does its work properly, probably, and we synchronize, then we will probably have greater achievements. Secondly, I think it's good for Kenyans to have those expectations. It shows you that Kenyans are now more aware. It also gives us the impetus to work more harder, and we don't take it as being idle talk by Kenyans. So we'll try to do the best we can, but we know that there are problems. The commission was established. Perhaps people did not even understand the magnitude of the problem we were going to have. So I think we will try to do our best. Secondly, as Honorable Karua also mentioned, there are many things which we also ordinary Kenyans or politicians and the rest of us can do to help the work of the commission. Okay, for example, let me just give you an example. If the society glorifies those people who are hate mongers and even gives them platforms, when they go to their own home areas, they are treated as people who are defenders of the community. Then what is the society doing? Okay, all right, your point is made on that. I'd like us to hear now from Bishop Oginde on just how we go about solving our issues. Sheikh Lidome had alluded to this, that even no matter what issue it is, we're divided right down the middle by ethnicity. But so do we have an objective way in which we solve our issues, or are we just a spark? Let's listen.
That is actually what I'm saying, that there are issues that we really should have confronted, discussed very objectively, but it seems like both sides of the political divide have had very strong positions that therefore we have ended up in a situation where we have not objectively spoken to one another to deal with the issues that have been plaguing us for several decades now. As you know, the church, the diplomatic community, business community have been calling for us to get to the place where we can look at these issues with a more long-term perspective than just a short-term interest. That has not been totally possible, and that's why we are still in that place where any spark could actually cause a fire in the country. And our prayer is that our politicians will sober up, really, and get to that place where we can discuss these issues so that we move out of a situation where every election period we are in a state of tension.
Sheikh, you had mentioned this as well, that everything is down to either politics or ethnicity. Bishop Oginde is saying the same thing. So if we cannot be objective about how to solve our issues, should we seek another Annan? Should we seek another process to try and take us to the next phase?
Yeah. Yvonne, if you ask me, we need a homegrown solution to our problems. We don't have to keep on looking for Kofi Annan to come and help us resolve our problems.
But how do we do that, Sheikh, when everything is down ethnicity? I mean, you take a look at social media, even right now, with some of the feedback from this, and you can almost tell, just by the name of the purported person, which way, their views will go.
Yeah. Yvonne, if you ask me, I would want the people of Kenya to rise up and tell our politicians, because they are the ones who are leading us in the wrong directions. The powers that they have are powers donated to them by the people of Kenya. So they have sworn to defend the constitution of this country. So I think the people of Kenya need to rise up. And as Bishop Oginde said, we as religious leaders are sitting in a dialogue group that trying to bring these people together. And I think Kenyans should support that initiative by the religious community to bring these people to know that Kenya is bigger than any one of them. Kenya is bigger than these politicians. We don't want them to take us back to where we were. So we need to sit down and talk together and put sense into them and tell them, look here, we don't want this country to burn again. It burns, all of us burn. And some of you will flee this country. So I think we need to be very candid about this issue, and we should not wait until we have another fire in this house and then bring another Kofi Annan. For me, a homegrown solution is more sustainable.
All right. Hassan, what can we expect from the Commission over the next decade or so? Seeing as here we are, 10 years later, but what sort of assurances can you give to Kenyans going forward?
Let me assure Kenyans that we'll continue working on the mandate which we have been given. We will seek for support so that we can make our work better.
What sort of support would you need?
I mean, we need financial support. We need also the goodwill of the Kenyans. As I told you, it's Kenyans themselves who are encouraging the hate mongers. They're like prophets in their own areas and what. And also, Kenyans should get out of this habit. We carried out research some times back, and one of the things we found out is that the more Kenyans, the issue of ethnicity is not driven by people who are uneducated or people in the villages. It is driven by people who are the more educated you are, the more you become ethnicized. I mean, there is that likelihood. So it's the elite who are actually driving the issue of ethnicity and negative ethnicity. So we should start thinking seriously about contributing to cohesion and integration in our own ways as a country.
All right, Bishop Oginde, homegrown solutions?
Definitely, ultimately, this nation is not for these two groups. This nation belongs to the 45 million of us. It is if we relinquish our responsibility, then we are the ones who are going to suffer in the long run. And therefore, as Kenyans, we need to come together and look at the issues that face us and come out with solutions that are homegrown, as it were. And this is the approach that now some of us are considering, whether we can actually let the politicians continue with their games that they are playing, but the rest of Kenyans take a very objective approach and begin to discuss and see how can we sort ourselves out. I believe that if Kenyans become objective, if Kenyans become stronger in our pursuit for peace, it is actually possible. But unfortunately, quite a number of us are so beholden to the political leadership that sometimes we are not objective ourselves. Sometimes we don't consider the long-term consequences of where we are and what we are doing.
Very much. Bishop Dr. David Oginde, the presiding bishop of the Christ is the Answer Ministries. Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome, thank you as well. As to you as well, Hassan Mohammed is the CEO of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Many thanks as well to Martha Karua, as the NARC Kenya party leader, for speaking with us with our lead reporter, Sophia Wanuna, earlier. That's our show this week. Thanks for watching. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. Good night.